The good thing about the sport is the fact that I've seen people who are in their 80s playing against someone that's 15 years old and they can still have a competitive game.
Yeah.
So it's extremely inclusive, which I love.
Yeah, and it cross like intergenerational as well, which is fantastic.
Which is fantastic, yeah.
From family time.
Welcome to The Glass Ceiling, the podcast where business leaders share their stories, struggles and triumphs.
There is a lot in that, there's a lot of learning.
We sort of had different views on how the business should be ran.
The next 10 years looks like for South Australia.
Startup's the easiest.
I'm your host, Marissa Hankinson from Wavebreaker, and I'm passionate about amplifying their voices. Join me as we explore the highs and lows of innovation, entrepreneurship and leadership. From founders to CEOs, our guests will share their insights, experiences and advice on how to succeed and make a lasting impact. Get ready for inspiring conversations and valuable lessons. Let's shatter the glass ceiling, one story at a time. Hello, Sam. Welcome to the Glass Ceiling. It's a pleasure to have you on for this episode.
Thanks for having me.
We're on season 2 now as well. So I'm delighted to have you in the studio. Can you tell us who you are?
My name is Sam Quist and I'm the founder of Pickleball. So we're an Australian business manufacturing high quality yet affordable pickleball equipment.
Okay, so I need to ask because I'm intrigued now because pickleball seems to be a buzz sport at the moment. Originated in the US?
In the US in the 60s, correct?
In the 60s? I thought it was like 10 years ago or something.
No, it's been around from the 60s. So it actually started with 4 parents and they were bored on a summer holiday and they decided to invent a new sport. But the sport's actually named after their dog Pickles, which is quite a fun fact. There's a lot of rumour mill around why it's called pickleball, but that's why.
Okay.
So the dog, the owner's dog, the inventor's dog.
Okay, so how did you find out about pickleball?
So I found out about pickleball through a friend of mine. I play a lot of tennis, competitive tennis, and one of my colleagues, tennis comrades, introduced me to the sport. I wasn't sure about the sport, and like a lot of tennis players, I was a little bit iffy about whether I was going to join my friend on the court. Instantly fell in love with it. It's highly addictive, barrier entry. It's very affordable for people to take up, and it's a very diverse sport. So I instantly connected with the sport.
Is it on a smaller court than tennis?
Correct. So you're looking at, you're familiar with badminton, a badminton court. So the same dimensions as a badminton court.
Okay. I'm going to be really ignorant now. Does it have a net?
It does. It's a little. That's all right. It's a couple of inches smaller than a tennis net.
Okay.
So you're looking at around 34 inches in height.
Yeah.
So just a little bit shorter.
Okay. And it's obviously a smaller court
Correct.
as well. And is it doubles?
You can play singles and you can play doubles.
Okay.
Essentially, the game's a cross between badminton, tennis, and table tennis, if you could put that into one sport.
Okay.
So I'd probably suggest, if you haven't heard of pickleball, jump on YouTube.
Okay.
And there's a lot of content. It's the fastest growing sport in the world. So there's an abundance of content online.
Well, as I said before, off camera, I bumped into somebody who works for one of the councils here in Adelaide.
Yes.
One of the things she was saying is that pickleball is just taking off.
Yes.
Massively. But one of the things that she did say, which I thought was interesting, was the age range of people playing pickleball.
Yeah.
And also the inclusion of pickleball. So can you just expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, from an age perspective, the sport started off, I guess, in the senior community. So primarily it was played upon people 60 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the years, it's been reverse engineered into the younger demographic. I think probably we have the likes of Taylor Swift, celebrities such as Nick Kyrgios, Patty Mills from the Boomers, the likes that are actually now physically investing into teams. There's a major league of pickleball. So I think that's obviously
raising its profile too.
Correct. So that's obviously broadened the demographic. But in terms of accessibility, as far as it's easy on your joints. So unlike tennis, which I don't know about you, I think you said off camera you do play tennis.
Oh, I haven't played. So similar to, I didn't create a new sport, just saying. But the only reason I started to play tennis in my 30s because my kids were doing tennis lessons and there was just these mums sat around doing nothing, and we decided that we would have a go.
And then we became completely addicted, joined a team.
Yeah.
Okay, we might have been the C or D team.
Nothing wrong with that.
And yeah, that's how I got into tennis. So I'd never had that kind of like younger training coming up.
Yes.
But I'm very grateful for it, because when I came to Australia, I got befriended at the West Lakes Tennis Club.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was a really good way to meet people.
Well, that's exactly right. That's how, obviously, I got introduced to pickleball. It's how you got introduced to tennis. I think from a community aspect at the moment, the community of pickleball, it's growing daily. There's a new club opening pretty much daily around the country. It's now the fastest growing sport in Australia. So as far as inclusivity, you'll always find someone that if you, I guess, attend pickleball, not a lesson, but an event for the first time, someone's there to show you the ropes. As far as scoring and rules, takes a little bit to get used to, but generally in half an hour you've picked up the game. So you got a paddle in hand and you're ready to go. So,
and is it a paddle, not a racket?
It's a paddle.
Okay.
It's a paddle, yes.
Go on, explain, because you're manufacturing these, aren't you?
Correct.
Go on, so explain.
Yeah, so I guess I might just take you back a couple of steps as far as how I got into manufacturing, just to set the scene.
Yeah.
So I've got a bit of a family history from tennis. I've got my great uncle was a Davis Cup tennis player in the 1930s, and he invented a shoe called the Dunlop Volley. Not sure if you've owned a pair of Dunlop Volleys.
I think everyone. Rory, have you had a Dunlop?
Probably.
They look good.
So he invented that shoe in the late 1930s, and throughout that, his I guess the tennis link. My father was a fashion designer, and he was one of South Australia's first fashion designers, and he basically, I think, instilled the entrepreneurial bug, which came onto manufacturing pickleball paddles and equipment. So, yeah, for me to get involved in manufacturing was certainly my father's background and connections offshore has helped out an abundance. As you can imagine, it can be the Wild West out there, so you really need to make sure you've got the right partners in place.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you go back to your uncle, and there's that sort of even that connection with tennis all the way through.
Correct.
So fashion design, did your dad ever do, did your father ever do sports stuff or anything like that, or was it more?
For him, it was more fashion. I've always geeked out on I'm a technology geek, and especially sport technology. So I'm someone that needs to have the latest and greatest racket, and now the latest and greatest paddle.
Okay.
But for me, I've started the company based on the fact that when I went out to the first couple of pickleball sessions, I noticed that there was a lack of great gear. On the market, the way the market currently stands is the gear's either too expensive, you're looking at $400 plus for a top of the range paddle.
Right.
Or on the other end, completely subpar. So material made of plywood. My parents actually had a game of pickleball. They've got a holiday house in Encounter Bay, and they played a game, and my dad actually injured his arm on the paddle, which sparked a bit of a nugget, like I like to say, but I saw a gap in the market that there was an opportunity to invent high quality yet affordable equipment. Mm-hmm. And then also through my background as well in media and marketing and communications, I thought this something needs to be done here. And away I've gone, and I haven't really stopped since.
So just for our viewers and listeners, what kind of time frame are we looking at from this?
Short time frame. So we're looking, I've been in business for 8 months now. So we've just started. Obviously, a lot of research and development before starting the company, but it's not getting a lot of sleep at the moment because I am the founder, and it's a one-man show for me at the moment. So,
so where are you manufacturing?
We manufacture offshore in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Yes.
So what about the research and development? Because it wasn't 8 months from start to finish, including the research and development.
No, God, no.
I was going to say, because that sounds way too quick.
No, it's been probably, I'd say, 2 years.
Yeah.
So I was working previous to this for Channel 9.
Yep.
I was working, so I was living in Melbourne in content partnerships. So I was dealing with some of Australia's largest brands, including some of the big four banks. So I was in that content space and decided, look, I want to go out on my own, but I was waiting for the right product. And then I heard about pickleball. Before playing it, I knew that it was the fastest growing sport in the US. So the penny dropped whilst I was in that role. And in the background, on my days off and at night, I'd be researching.
So 24/7 really.
Yeah.
So when did the side hustle become the full time?
It's a good question because I had to make the call. I just couldn't keep up. So in terms of orders that were coming through, I've had to build up trust very initially with retailers that I guess, just like yourself, they've heard about the sport, but they weren't ready to invest in the sport. So part of my role around leadership has been more of a innovational leadership and educating retail partners and getting on board. So for me, I've spent a lot of time educating people just about the sport and the growth and the potential.
So when you say the orders got too much, were you still in a wholesale capacity there or were you in an online?
Wholesale capacity,
Okay.
yeah. So I've got a pretty strong business development background. So I spent a lot of time building rapport behind the scenes with customers, and it's some of them took to it like duck to water. Some of them I'm just starting to forge relationships now.
Yeah, and obviously your background with the content partnerships has helped. Have you got investors in the business, or have you gone down the joint funding, joint venture?
No, not
so
at this stage.
What's the word? Sole
proprietor. It's all me.
I was thinking of hang on. There's a mixture of the words of entrepreneur and solo, isn't there?
Solopreneur.
Is
that we'll go with that?
We'll
go with that.
We'll just go with that.
That's all right.
But that is a thing.
Yeah. So it's all me. Yeah, self-funded.
Okie dokie. So what is obviously you've got your retail. So can you give us an example if someone was interested in watching this, where could they find? And it's Q Pickleball is the brand.
Correct. Q Pickleball. Yeah. So that's named after, it's basically a tribute to my great uncle, Adrian Quist. I've got a bio up on the website, but essentially, like I said, I've always been inspired by Adrian and what he's done and paved the way for Australian tennis. And he was an innovator. He was obsessed with technologies. He actually dabbled into racket technology at one stage as well. So I think that's definitely where that's come from. Mm-hmm. But essentially, if someone wants to look out and be in contact, you can find all the information from my website, qpickleball.com.au, or just reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. Okay.
So you can give an example of retailers.
Yep.
Where you could get them from.
Yep. So we've got national presence with Sports Power at the moment.
Yep.
And Sports First. So in a short period of time, really happy to have forged those relationships. Again, with those particular clients, they can see the opportunity. Yeah. So obviously going back to the education standpoint and what's happening in the US, they've fortunately decided to partner with me in expanding that reach nationally.
So the future of Q Pickleball, can you see yourself being a sponsor of these teams that are being invested? So I'm assuming with this professional league, is that a global or national? Yeah, so there's two leagues. We've got a national league, National Pickleball League, and there's also a major pickleball league, which is played across Australia, New Zealand, and Asia as well. Okay. That's stemmed across from the US. Going back to the celebrity part of pickleball, you've got the likes of Patty Mills from the Boomers, Nick Kyrgios investing into teams. In the US, LeBron James is investing into the teams in the US. So it's been a bit of a thing with basketballers. I don't know why, but basketballers are investing in pickleball teams. So you did say that it's being played majority at the moment indoors, pickleball.
Yeah, so in Australia at the moment, we don't really have the infrastructure. That's going to slowly change. On the East Coast, they're starting to build a lot of permanent pickleball courts. Okay. But like I was saying to you off camera, I'd probably say 70 to 80% of pickleball games are played indoor, based on the fact that you just need a badminton-sized court. So you can purchase a net, you can set that up. All the markings are done on a badminton court. Very easy to play, easy setup. Obviously, we're moving to summer now, and everyone's going to want to play outside. So, like I said to you off camera again, I've set up a club in the Adelaide Hills.
And it's sold out.
We've sold out. It's we didn't know what the demand was going to be. We knew people wanted something fresh in the Adelaide Hills, so we did community-based marketing, putting up the flyers, inspiring the community, and within 2 weeks we had over 120 people wanting to play. So we can only fit 54 on our books on the courts, and seeing that play out last night, I actually posted on my Insta this morning, but having a look at the photos just of a full court.
And was this indoor or outdoor?
This was outdoor, sorry. This was outdoor. The club that have fortunately had us taking over their tennis club on the pickleball courts were struggling with tennis memberships.
Oh.
There's been a decline across the board. So for them, it was a bit of a godsend that someone's actually come and been able to reinvigorate the memberships. That's probably another thing to quickly chat about as well, tennis and pickleball. At this stage, there is a little bit of a rivalry. I'm a tennis player. I love tennis and I want to preserve tennis. There are people out there at the moment that play tennis and run tennis clubs that don't want anything to do with pickleball, which is fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting for me because, I've seen people who played tennis all their lives.
Yes.
And then, it does take a toll.
Yes.
On the joints and things like that. So if someone isn't able to play tennis, but then they can have this as another sport and still have the community and the competitiveness, then why wouldn't you want, because they're probably, I know it's a paddle, not a racket, just saying, but they should be transferable.
The skills are transferable, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I guess it's just the fact that you don't have a full court to run on, you don't have the coverage. So pickleball is played 80% of the time at the net. So there's called a kitchen line. So on the court, there's a non-volley zone. They call it the kitchen. Okay. There's many jokes about the kitchen, but there's a line.
You need to expand on the jokes for the kitchen.
The people can be in the kitchen. It's stay out of the kitchen.
Okay.
Those sort of jokes, which, I'm not all for, but people make jokes like that. But in terms of the non-volley zone, you need to stay on the outside of the zone. So you can't volley a ball in there. If the ball bounces, you can enter that non-volley zone, aka the kitchen.
Okay. My concern is I used to play tennis with a lot of squash players.
Yes.
And I used to play doubles, and you could always tell a squash player because they can kill the ball.
Yes.
At the net. Can that happen with pickleball?
Spot on. So if there's a bit of it. So the pickleball is more of a strategic game where you're taking time away from the opponent. A lot of people, when they start playing pickleball for the first time, think that it's like tennis.
Yeah. So it's
or like squash, where that's that high power, high driving baseline shots. The real game of pickleball is played near the net, so near that non-volley zone.
So it must get quite fast then.
It's a fast hand-to-hand game. Not everyone plays it like that, right? So going back to, I guess, the elderly community that don't want to have that fast game, they can play a slower game of pickleball. They don't have to play the fast game of pickleball. Or if they are at the net, they can just play it slower. So it doesn't have to be fast. The good thing about the sport as well, and what I love about it, is the fact that I've seen people who are in their 80s playing against someone that's 15 years old and they can still have a competitive game.
Yeah.
So it's extremely inclusive, which I love.
Yeah, and it cross like intergenerational as well, which is fantastic.
Which is fantastic, yeah.
From family time.
Last night we had, I think 50% of the turnout were families. And I think with social media at the moment, obviously government looking at stepping in, but, it's great to see parents taking it in their own hands. And at Set, we launched at 6:30 last night till 9 o'clock on a Monday night. And we had families out, and those kids, if they're at home, one could lead to the imagination that they might be on social media. Yeah. So the fact that they're actually off the iPads and playing a physical sport is something which is another reason why I've started the business, because I value just inspiring kids to get off
Be
social
outside.
media. Yeah, absolutely. Be outside.
Yeah, be outside and play.
Correct.
So you've set up your club,
Yes.
and was that with the help of the council and the tennis club, or?
Council in the background, the tennis club, absolutely. Myself and two other friends of mine.
Yeah.
Been a team effort, a lot of work behind the scenes. But for me, because education and building the community is another part of the brand. I'm in talks with the South Australian government at the moment, so I'm helping them with rolling out pickleball to schools.
I was going to say that's obviously the next channel is that, talking to schools, getting that on the curriculum or even sampling it.
It's happening now. So I deal with schools daily. So I've got a lot of customers from schools that we're replacing equipment with.
Yep.
And that's nationally as well. So it's I'm just, as we're talking about it, I'm thinking,
you've done a lot.
There's a lot I've covered in such a short amount of time. It's gone full steam. But with the educating schools, it is in the curriculum for a lot, part of the curriculum at the moment, as part of the net and racket sport.
Yeah.
But outside of that, there's still some work to be done. So I'm currently working with some schools and seeing how that could work on a competition standpoint and how they can actually play.
Yeah, because then you'd wanted to get into was it SARS? Is it SARS? SAPSA, yeah.
So, yeah.
So you sort of have got that other side of it. It can't just be, everyone always wants that competition and
correct.
How they're going to progress and what that progression is going to look like. And
yeah, exactly. So the good thing with the school is the schools are, so outside of paddles, I've just started manufacturing the balls themselves.
Okay.
So they're going to come out soon.
So explain the balls.
Okay. So have you heard of you remember the wiffle ball, like a plastic wiffle ball?
Yep.
Did you ever play on one of those? It's basically a plastic wiffle ball.
Okay.
40 hole for the outdoor ball, 26 hole for indoor ball. More holes basically due to wind.
Yeah.
Offset the wind. The indoor ball is slightly more bouncy when it's played on a wooden floor as well.
Yeah.
So they're the two types of balls.
Okay.
So, and then I'm the Australian distributor for PickleNet, which is the number one pickleball net in the world, best reviewed. So where I'm going with this is I'm rolling out to schools the full sets, full kits.
And so I can sort of see if it's played indoors.
Yep.
At the moment, and obviously that's just an infrastructure thing that will come in time.
Yeah.
But that might be one of the reasons that basketball is getting involved, because courts are very multifunctional, aren't they, in community centres and schools? It's the netball, the basketball, badminton. So it might just be that kind of...
Yeah, no, I think...
The infrastructure's underlying the indoor side of it to get it off the ground.
Yes.
Versus the outside infrastructure.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think the way it's growing, and we've seen in Sydney and Melbourne, there's people opening up pickleball centres and people are flooding to them. I think there was something on in the US where if you open up an Airbnb, you put a permanent pickleball court in your backyard, that list just goes. So people they'll actually jump onto Airbnb, and the first thing I'll look for is where can I stay that has a pickleball court, which I probably would do the same thing now.
Oh, okay. That might be a tip for our investors is make sure.
I think so. So, I think, we're certainly trailing behind the US, but I think over the next 1 to 2 years, we'll really start to hit strides.
Yeah. Well, I've got some friends who have basically said, we need to start pickleball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know someone now.
I know. And that's where it started, because we were talking about different exercises, and Vanessa was talking about she does Pilates and things like that. And then it turned around and Danny went, we'll be starting pickleball soon. And then she was like, I'm already doing that with the council and then this whole conversation for like 30 minutes. And I was like, guess who I've got coming in? The studio.
Well, you know someone.
The person who does the pickle nets and everything. Yeah.
So it's been good. Councils has been great. Tennis clubs is another. So I'm speaking with a lot of tennis clubs at the moment that are wanting to follow a similar model to us than what we're doing in the Hills. So I think there's that education piece that it's not going to take over the sport of tennis. Bundaberg, Queensland, there was a club up there that had a $100,000 grant. They saw a 200% uplift in membership. There's still people playing tennis. There's still people playing pickleball. You can all be friends.
Well, the thing is, you said you had the Monday night up in the hills.
Yes.
Tuesday could be a competition night or Wednesday.
Correct.
The courts aren't being used 100%
Correct.
of the time.
Yeah.
So if you can utilize 1 or 2 nights or even an afternoon or something like that.
Yeah.
Or when it's like, as you say, if you've got an age range that's senior, they probably don't want to be out in the evenings and things like that. So
they don't.
What happens to the tennis club? The
Correct.
tennis club is just dormant.
That's such a good point.
So from a capacity perspective,
yes,
there is definitely room
yes,
for that to happen and everyone to work a little bit in harmony,
yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when memberships start to increase, they may have a different attitude.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been discussing. So
Yeah. Unfortunately, you have to follow the dollars sometimes to change people's minds.
Unfortunately.
But that's life.
It is life. And I think people are starting to come around. It's great. I mean, I think the last probably year, like I said, with a lot of celebrity endorsements and the likes of the Major League, there's about, I think, $1 million in prize money now.
Oh my
for
gosh.
pickleball, where some people were surprised about the amount of prize money that people can actually win. It's really starting to take off. From a broadcast perspective, I think there's a lot of interest around that and sponsorship at the moment. So pickleball's in a bit of a hold from that standpoint, but it's changing every single day.
So do we have any rising stars that are South Australian in pickleball? Besides yourself, of course.
There is someone, her name's Talia. Forgive me if I've got her name wrong. But she plays for the Melbourne National Pickleball League.
Yeah.
And she's cleaning up. So she's doing very, very well.
Good. It's always like to see those on the horizon.
Yes. And a pro that she's South Australian, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. You always want to follow the person.
Yeah.
And if you can start it from the beginning of her journey, you do get that.
Another thing to probably mention as well, there's a lot of tennis players that are converting. They're actually playing like ex-pro tennis players that are playing pickleball now.
Okay.
Eugene Bouchard, Canadian tennis player. She's now playing pro pickleball. And there's a couple of others as well. So
probably lengthens their professional career in some way as well.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Every day there seems to be someone new playing it. There seems to be something happening in the sport which is changing. There's so many different directions it's going. It's an exciting time to be involved.
So on your website, I'm just going to be really basic now. On your website, it's got your history. It's got where you can find the products.
Yes.
Does it have the rules of pickleball?
I don't have the rules of pickleball. I did think about including the rules of pickleball, but I mean, we've all got Google.
That's true. Yeah. And is there a pickleball association or?
Yeah, absolutely. So the governing body for Australia is Pickleball Australia, and each state has their own body as well.
And are you involved with that?
I'm a member. I've thought about getting involved, but I've just been too busy. It's something that when I talk pickleball, people say, when are you going to join the association? And it's on my to-do list.
Yeah.
I'd love to be involved.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that. Because you're playing such a significant role in bringing it to Australia. And I'm very, I get behind people who are entrepreneurs, innovative, and bring in something for me that, I know I'll be talking about pickleball, but the fact that, so can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
What brought you back to Adelaide?
COVID.
Okay.
Not that I had COVID and that's why I came back. I got caught so I was living in Melbourne for 5 years. So I was working for Channel 9 over there. Loved the role, loved the company. Met my partner, Sarah, across in Melbourne in lockdown. But for us, I think we just missed South Australia too much.
Yeah. Were you both South Australians?
Correct, yeah. So Sarah was living in Melbourne for 13 years and I had to do some convincing, I'm not going to lie. Sarah, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but yeah, I did have to do some convincing. And one of the other, I guess we decided that if we come back, because we were living in Richmond, in Victoria, which was both in apartments and, in the centre of the city. And we wanted some space. So we decided to move back to South Australia and live in the Adelaide Hills.
Yeah, no, I was only asking because obviously it sounds like Melbourne and Sydney are a little bit more advanced within the pickleball market, would you say?
I'd say they are, but not by much. I'm always in Melbourne. I'm always travelling, and I've got partners and business partners in Victoria, and that we're all doing this together.
So it's all sorts of rising.
We're all doing this together. In terms of the National Pickleball League's obviously doing really well. They've set that up and it's going fantastic. And then obviously there's more people over there, so there's going to be more people playing, and they've got more permanent courts. We don't currently in South Australia, to my knowledge, have any permanent courts. So what we're looking at doing at our club to keep everyone happy is to paint some permanent lines. Yeah. But we're not going to change the surface, and then
no, and that's okay.
That's fine. Yeah. I think for most people, it's a happy medium, right? So you're keeping everyone happy.
So from a pickleball service, we talked about indoor and obviously outdoor, but it's not really like a bit like with tennis, you have a clay court, a grass court. That's irrelevant.
No, it is. It is. Again, it's preference. So I think in the US, there's certain surface types that they have for those courts. I'd say 90%, 95% would be done on either a tennis court or a hard wooden floor at this stage.
And then you've only got the difference between the balls being indoor and outdoor.
That's it.
Yeah.
You can also looking at something at the moment, I'm in some discussions about potentially bringing some portable courts to Australia for event season. So watch this space. But that would be something along the lines of a different material, unlike what people have been playing on. Yeah. So it'd have a slightly different bounce, but for people who have playing at an event for the first time, they're going to get the experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's the future of your club now? Is that Monday night going to be a regular thing now?
Oh, for the club? The Monday night will be. I think we're not going to get rid of that anytime soon.
Especially
not
if you've got
choice.
A waiting list.
Yeah. As I said, we're doing this for a bit of fun, the club, and again, to build the community. And last night was a launch night, and it was fantastic.
You seem blown away, actually.
I actually am.
Really
I'm trying to process it now. I'm just
surreal.
A little bit. It was surreal last night. I haven't processed it completely, but just seeing that many people out there on a nice balmy. There was actually a couple of thunderstorms last night, so the courts got washed out for about 10-15 minutes, but people still stuck around, and it was a good night.
Sounds like a really good community that you're building, and congratulations on everything that you've achieved.
Oh, thanks, Marissa.
On your own.
Thank you.
In a short period of time as well, and I can't wait to continue to watch your journey.
Thank you.
And also the journey of pickleball in Australia. Thank you very much for being a guest on The Glass Ceiling, Sam.
Thanks for having me, Marissa.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Glass Ceiling. If you've liked what you heard, please subscribe, as we'd love to have you as part of our community. We're grateful to our guests for sharing their inspiring stories and insights with us. This podcast was brought to you by Wavebreaker. Join us next time as we shatter the glass ceiling, one story at a time.